The hardest requirement in it. Oh. So the way this equipment glitch works, I should probably have explained that. You basically have to have your cursor on memory. You move from one character's weapon to another's armor, or vice versa. And basically it loads the lookup values for the first one you select, but you move it to the second one, so it loads those lookup values from the other table. And so, for example, we buy a hammer right at the start, and that shares a lookup value with the knight's armor. So by moving between the two, you can change where you would equip that hammer. You actually end up on an armor slot to equip the knight's armor. And it also means that you can equip things that normally wouldn't be equipable. Knight's armor is not normally a glove, but it can be now. And you'll see a lot of characters holding weapons that they should not be able to run. Like, we'll see everyone fairly shortly holding judgment staves, which, I mean, not everyone's meant to have a staff, but on that note, judgment staff, ridiculously powerful, casts flare when you use it, which, I mean, especially early game, but even during the late game is really, really good, but it's also really slow. So kind of don't want to use it unless you absolutely have to. 8 seconds per cast is a big time loss to be taking, but the trade-off for the strength at this point is just worth it. And it's also by far the best equipment available at this point. Even though it's just a staff, a late game staff is better than any of the other early game weapons. So a smooth garland run there for Raeanus. Generally speaking, in a race, you're happy with pretty much anything sub 3 garland, I think. And Raise was about a 230 there, so that is really nice. You cannot skip the loot in this version. That is, if you try to leave, she'll just yell at you and get you to jump back there. It still costs you more time. It's faster to just have the conversation as and when. It's crazy to me that so many people are awake early for some FF1 action. I like it. I like it. I say that it's mid-afternoon for me, but we'll ignore that. Definitely early morning for both of the runners, I'm pretty sure on that one. So movement is a really interesting part in this game. The threat level builds as you take steps. You're more likely to get fights. Move, obviously. But notably, different terrain increase the threat level by different amounts. So you're better off walking in marshes than you are in plains, and you're better off walking in plains than you are in forests. Now, early on especially, there's this massive forest that Ray just walked through that you cannot avoid. There is, you can walk around it, but it's worse to walk around it. Ray getting through it with just one fight. And most of the early fights aren't too bad. The big thing you're looking for here is the number of ambushes more than the number of fights. Which Mutt is not having a great time with. Also, wolves. Wolves are actually like the one encounter early on that you will usually struggle to run away from. Your ability to run away from things is based on your agility, and wolves have pretty high agility. Talking of awful encounters to run away from, we just picked up the ship from... I'm not even going to try and pronounce the pirate's name. I'm just going to say the pirate. Sea encounters are miserable in this game. You will... Pretty much every sea encounter bar one, you will struggle to run away from. And a few of them can not so much cause problems, like you'll almost never be in a position where you're going to die to sea encounters. Ray getting through with 0, wow. You'll almost never die to sea encounters, but they will slow you down. They will slow you down like nothing else. Oh, jeez. My bad on that one. Went the wrong way. Just trying to line up the streams there a little bit. You can tell I'm new to all this. So the shopping menus are really important as well. So the route that they'll both be taking is the Black Mage route. There are 3 different routes. 3 different prevalent routes, I should say, for this game. There's a Black Mage route, a White Mage route, and a Barbarian Sword route. The Barbarian Sword route is the most simple one. It's also, I think, the least common one at this point. As far as I know, there's only one person still running that. Which, basically, you get the Barbarian Sword in Melmond. We will pick it up as part of this run. They will both be using the Barbarian Sword. It's just a question of how much they're using it. And it's a ridiculously powerful weapon. It's a post-game side dungeon weapon that increases both your attack and your strength. Just going to have a slight delay on Mutt again in a sec. Yep, there we go. To try and sync up those timers a bit. So the Barbarian Sword, yeah, increases both your attack and your strength, which is your attack power is how much the weapon adds normally, and most weapons will only add attack power. Your strength is your character's strength, which influences how much damage they deal per attack. Both of them tie into the damage calculation, and the Barbarian Sword is basically the only thing that increases both at once. And there is a Barbarian Sword route that just basically gives everyone Barbarian Swords and goes nuts. The problem being that when you get large groups of encounters that you have to fight, you end up having to use the Judgment Staves that they're using now, and as I mentioned earlier, that is an 8-second time hit every time you have to use one. Because this flare animation is not fast. It is not a quick animation at all. But, the White Mage route uses a whole bunch of items throughout that basically simulate, or replicate, I should say, the effects of the different magics. The Black Mage route uses the Black Mage to get those magics, level them up, and they're your kind of main ambush killer as you go through the run. They're the one that takes out all the unrunnable encounters, all of your big problem fights, and also gives you access to haste moving into the late game, which is an extra way just to boost damage. Speed ends up being the god stat. Speed is by far the most important stat, as I think kind of goes with almost any RPG at this point. But the Thief is used, Thief into Ninja is used primarily because of that. The Warrior is just there for equips. The Warrior, honestly, is just there for equipment. We use an equipment glitch, and the Warrior can equip almost everything that matters. They can equip axes, hammers, and gloves, I think, are the big ones. So Ray is about a marsh cave ahead at the moment. That is not actually that much. Both having trouble with terrible encounters there. Yeah, it is not unreasonable in speedrun like PB attempts of this game to get a marsh cave with 0 encounters the entire way. So I didn't touch on it earlier, but the square that Muttski just stood on is a forced encounter with Pisca demons. You will always fight them here. There were no Sahagins this time. We did not have... No, not this time. Yeah, for anyone who missed that, yesterday's race, there was a Sahagin encounter early for Muttski that must have cost a good minute or two on its own. No, today it was just some redoing of menuing. Oh, Ray taking the Black Mage death on Astos. That is the worst thing you can have happen here. So a particular note, this is actually a really good chance for Muttski to gain back some time as well, because a particular note, you need the Black Mage to level up. I mentioned earlier that the Black Mage route, you have to have the Black Mage at particular levels at certain intervals. The first one is here. It's when you go back to Elfheim after Astos, and you need the Black Mage to be level 8. And because he took the death at Astos, he's level 5. I think Muttski, after yesterday, is being incredibly safe with all the equipment and probably just following the guide notes to the letter. There's a known equipment glitch with this game. Oh, I say equipment glitch. The equipment glitch that we use has a known side effect where only certain things can be equipped as a shield, because there has to be an animation associated with blocking. So the ribbon, later on, we will equip as a shield because it has an animation associated with it. Lordly robes will equip as a shield because there is an animation associated with it. Muttski yesterday equipped a black garb on a shield, and that one doesn't. And if that happens and your character tries to block, the game will just lock. The game will just hard lock. And so at that point yesterday, yeah, Muttski lost a good 20 minutes, I think, at least, and just decided to take the forfeit at that point rather than run it back the entire way. So I'm just going to grab a different crop for don't mind the timer changing slightly for Ray, because that is going to cause some problems otherwise once we get into the hours. The new PB route is just to equip thieves' armlets everywhere. I like the idea. Oh wow, Muttski took the warrior death there, which is the best you can hope for. The absolute best. So Ray got the worst Astos, Muttski got the best. Will help gain back a little bit of that time along the way. Yeah, for anyone who missed that one earlier, the reason you care about who dies at Astos in particular in this route is that the Black Mage wants to be level 8 going into Elfheim there, so that you can teach them Fire and Thunder. It's not essential to teach them there. Like, we're about to go back to the Elven Palace anyway to give the Jolt Tonic and pick up the Mystic Key, and you can grab it there. But the earlier you get it, if you can get it before going into the ocean, you have Thundara for sea encounters. We spoke earlier about how terrible sea encounters can be. Having Thundara available for those is a huge saving grace. Ray not getting broomed, that's at least one. Brooms are still one of the most infuriating things in this run. RNG movement, and they can just block the doorway. Just completely stop you from exiting. Oh, jeez. Well, it's taking a lot of ambushes here. Meanwhile, Ray getting 0 sea encounters again. Unbelievable. Alright, so Ray jumping straight back into the Elven Castle, picking up a couple of pieces of equipment here. And more menu time. So the big thing here is Thieves' Armlets. They give you +5 agility. We're going to equip 3 per character. Just to maximize those chances of escaping. And the other thing that will happen here is Sage's Staves. We'll get 2 Sage's Staves. Right now, it doesn't really matter who has them. Eventually, we want it to be on the mages. Interesting. Okay, Ray did not equip the Sage's Staves there. Never mind. I guess he'll do that as part of the Melmond menuing instead. Is this Ray's first sea encounter this entire run? Oh, he's having trouble with it, so... There we go. Sea encounters are really fast. Sahagin are fast. You end with the Sahagin plus Big Eyes, and you end up being paralyzed along the way as well. It's the absolute worst. Ray is definitely in the lead right now, so Mutt is on his way from Matoya's cave back to Elfheim. After which, you go do some menuing and then have to pick up an item from Cornelia, which is the item that Ray just picks up. So there's a bit of a lead there, mostly from some early menuing that Muttski redid. But yeah, Ray definitely has had a major setback already, and it'll be interesting to see how he kind of adjusts to that. I mean, I touched earlier on the 3 different routes. Judgment Swords and Barbarians. Judgment Swords, Staves, that one. And Barbarian Swords is an option. It's not a very popular one at this point, but it is an option that's there. Right, so we see Mutt get the Thieves' Armlets. Missed equip there, so we'll have to go back and fix. Actually, that one's not too bad because you change that here. Neither of them are changing it here. Okay, never mind. There we go. Yeah, you change. This is what I was going to say. You change this here to the Sage's Staff anyway, so this is fine. Mutt did go back and do it, so having the wrong equip on the White Mage there, not a problem because you're just about to change it. Oh, Jesus. So Ray gets the worst version of this fight and runs away instantly, whereas Mutt has his luck from yesterday on this one. Again, for anyone who missed yesterday's run, Muttski got the encounter with 2 big eyes and some Sahagin, and was there for a good minute getting paralyzed and knocked down, and yeah, Thundara is the clean way through it. So someone correct me if I'm wrong here. I did not see Ray equip Sage's Staves. So that's interesting. That doesn't impact too much right now. Yeah. The level on the Black Mage is going to cause some really interesting problems, and I'm actually really interested to see how Ray kind of adjusts for that. And depending on how it goes later on, it might mean some big opportunities for Mutt to kind of catch up and bring this one back. Ray with the unrunnable encounter. So the 3rd floor of Earth Cave is kind of the first big terrifying moment of this run, I think. There are a few, but this has to be the first notable one. Pisca Demons are unrunnable, which is annoying, but not threatening. Undead enemies that paralyze you with every attack, and Cockatrice to petrify you with every attack. Those are the ones that you want to worry about. Those are definitely the ones that you're kind of concerned about moving through here. And an ambush from either of those can just spell death straight away. Vampire, on the other hand, not quite as threatening as he has been in other versions. And we didn't see any puzzles from either of these two, so they are on the way out of Earth Cave the slow way. Much to the disappointment of some people in chat, I'm sure. Has Raid taken a... Raid took a wrong turn here. And this is not the place you want to be doing that. Not punish for it too much, though. That is the kind of escape you want. One fight, get away from it quickly. No big cost. So yeah, just to explain the puzzle comment, there is a puzzle minigame you can do on your boat. If you come in second place on the leaderboard, you have a 1 in 6 chance of getting an emergency exit that lets you use it to leave a dungeon. And if you take that, if you take that risk in a race and then get the 1 in 6, this would be where you use it. You'd skip leaving Earth Cave. First place is clearly better in the puzzle, right? I mean, first has to be the best. It's first. Yeah. It's crazy to me how much the puzzle has become kind of like a running... I want to say part of the community, but I almost want to say it's a joke within the community at this point. The puzzle is not race friendly, unsurprisingly. Spending 45 seconds on or 30 to 45 seconds on a 1 in 6 chance, yeah, not great. To throw some context to that, you have to be over 30 seconds in order to get second place in the puzzle, but then there's also some menuing involved around that, so it's a bit more than 30 seconds. I'm not bad-mouthing the puzzle, I'm just saying that I will never learn it ever because, I don't know, resetting a run every time you fail a 1 in 6 doesn't sound great to me. And the other thing with this is that in no way, shape, or form do people need the puzzle to be competitive at this game. Not a chance. Like, for anyone who wants to get into this game, if you like your risky strats, the puzzle is there to do it, and you can take your 1 in 6 and you can grind them out. And if you don't like that, you don't have to do it, because it's just not necessary. You're reliant a bit more on luck escaping Earth Cavern, but you can just get decent luck on encounters getting out of Earth Cavern and not gain that much from the puzzle to begin with. Alright, so Ray picking up the Earth Rod as Muttski goes into the vampire fight. Gonna have to go all the way back there now. Use that behind vampire. Thief down. That doesn't have any major implications going forwards, I'm pretty sure. And so I didn't touch on it on the way in, but bats are by far the worst enemy in this game. Nothing is worse in FF1 than bats. I mentioned it earlier with the brooms, but bats follow the same thing. They move one tile every now and then, and it's completely random in which direction they'll move. So they can just completely block your path, and all you can do is just run into them until they move. I was going to say we're going to get the high five as they go through Earth Cavern, and then they took different routes just to dodge it. Getting the same fight, though. That's close enough. Double Minotaur preemptive. Alright, Ray is running straight through. Again, some of the fights on the third floor of Earth Cave can be pretty abysmal. You can end up with some terrifying moments here. I was about to say, failing to run from undead enemies is one of them. Wights and Ghasts paralyzing your party is definitely a threat. Yeah, Ogre Chiefs on the other hand are not. Ogre Chiefs are useless. One of the most pathetic enemies to come by here, so that is absolutely fine. That's what you want to see. It's interesting to know that quite a lot of these floors in throughout the dungeons have different routes that you can take and everything. So Ray took a slightly slower route on the second floor of Earth Cave, but then took the fastest of 3 routes on the 4th floor. And when I say it's the fastest of those routes, the next slowest is like, I can't remember the exact number now, but I think it's like 8 extra steps or something. It is marginally faster. And there goes Lich. Not a problem. Lich can just open up with Blazara and wipe your party, so smooth Lich fight though, that is exactly what you want to be seeing if you're in Ray's position here. So after every one of the 4 fiends, you'll see this little cutscene of like a side dungeon open. We don't care about any of those. We don't do those. I've actually, full honesty here, I have never played the PSP version outside of the speedrun, so I don't even know what's in those side dungeons. I have never gone anywhere near those. Be interested to see what 100% run of this looks like, but I mean, this tournament is called Total Chaos for a reason. You know what you're getting in for with this game, and I don't know if anyone would sign themselves up to do even more of it. I say that there is like almost it's like an ongoing joke in the community at this point to badmouth this game for the amount of RNG it has. It is an amazing speedrun, and it is a really easy way to get into RPG speedruns. I think it is one of the friendliest speedruns to learn. But it's a shorter run, which means that the RNG factors into it more. Or your 6-second time loss means more in a 2-hour run than it does in a 4-hour run. And when you get those 6-second time losses every 3 steps from ambushes and whatever, you start to hate the game a little bit. Big focus though on movement and menuing, and on that note, menuing coming up right here for Ray, we have one of the bigger equip menus in the game here. Just because it's the one where... So our party is set up very specifically to get the most equip kind of movement going. So we have the Black Mage as the damage output, we have the Thief as the physical damage output, you have to have your healer. The Warrior is there to equip things more than anything, and we actually have to swap the 2 mages around, or the 2 melee characters, but that has other implications. But in order to equip the Black Garbs and the Lust Dagger here, it's best to swap them over. And the Lust Dagger is the important one there. Nobody else can equip the gloves, so you need the Black Mage to move there. And we want the Lust Dagger because it increases agility by 10, and also because it's a powerful physical weapon, and we have the 1 level grind of the game coming up shortly, which doesn't take long at all. We're looking to hit level 18 to be safe. You can get away with 17 plus 1 fight, but most people just tend to go to 18 in a race. And the reason for that is that you want to be level 19 in a section coming up. Total Chaos is just the name of the tournament now. It's just partially a play on Chaos. It's, you know, bit of an FF1 pun. And also because this game can be total chaos for anyone signing up to it. In terms of the actual run, it is the normal PSP any percent. No weird restrictions or changes to it. Yeah, the important part of the level grind coming up is getting to level 19 by the time we finish Mount Gorg, which for the most part isn't bad. Like I say, you get to level 18 here generally to be safe because you pick up a couple of fights in the Citadel of Trials coming up. And that's a smooth lich for Muttski there. Nice, both of them getting through it quickly. Muttski did full heal here, so he's going to have to take some damage strats on the way through Cavern of Ice. For that upcoming grind I mentioned, one of the notable things of it is that you have to you have to kill off your warrior and your thief. Your experience is divided in this game. You know, you get a set amount of experience per fight, and then it's split between all of the living party members. And so the best way to do this level grind is to not have the Black Mage die, but to have the Thief and the Warrior die, so that they don't get that experience. And the Warrior actually stays dead for quite a long time here. We will actually be keeping the Warrior down for quite a while, because the Thief is by far, like the Warrior, like I mentioned earlier, they're the expendable character in this run. They're the one that you're just... They're there to equip things, they're not there to fight. Ray taking... playing it extra safe with this damage. So that will be Muttski's backup strat, by the way. I mentioned earlier that Muttski will have to take a bit of a backup during Cavern of Ice. Those damage tiles that Ray just walks over for a bit, Muttski will be using those to put the warrior and the thief into critical health or low health. Generally, you're looking at below 70, because the enemy coming up, the Evil Eye that we use here to do the level grind, can use Thundara, hit the whole party, and if your characters are below 70, they'll generally die to it, but Ray took a bit of extra damage just to get those potential damage rolls on gazes and things like that. There's the Thundara, yep. 70 to 80 to everyone. And now the mages can start attacking. Between the Black Garbs and the Lust Daggers, they've got really good agility, so they'll outspeed the Evil Eye. And now you just fight it again and again for a little bit. And this is the only kind of grind in the run. It's fairly quick. Like, this is by far the best place to do it, and you have to come here anyway for the Leatherstone, so it's not like you're going out of your way to find an enemy that gives you a decent chunk of experience. You're already fighting this once, you might as well fight it an extra 7 or 8 times. You know, I have no real comments. I just glancing at chat and seeing like worst FF1 version. I have no real comments on that other than Wonderswan. Like, how are you defining worst here? There are some. There are definitely some opinions there. Also, I might just blitz through that menu. Gonna go pick up that canoe and get to Ice Cavern. And there's level 18 for the mages on Ray's side, so the Thief gets revived and healed up. Like I mentioned earlier, the Thief is the one that we care more about the damage on. The mages need the levels for spells, the Thief needs it for damage output later on. And I say needs it. Probably doesn't, but more so than the warrior, so we just leave the warrior dead for a bit while we go through places where, yeah, you just don't need the warrior alive for the upcoming areas. Piscanemon's in Ice Cavern, causing a few problems with menuing. It's always one of those annoying ones because you've unequipped the Judgment Staves, so they're difficult to get to. But you also don't have a staff equipped, so your Thundara isn't dealing as much damage. And you can get away with Thundara after the level grind. But even then, I don't know if it's... I don't think it is 100% consistent on that one. Whereas the Judgment Staff will just kill them. It's a long animation, but it will just kill them. Jeez, and Ray getting the third demon fight in a... So Muttski's pretty much Cavern of Ice behind right now. There's a good few minutes there, but no lead like that is insurmountable in this game. First things first, there are so many places that Ray could still take a death at some point. Take a setback there, depending on when he chooses to safety save. Ice Cavern is definitely the area with the highest risk of just like ambush and death, but a lot of places have those issues. Mount Gulg is a big one coming up as well. If you take an ambush late into Mount Gold and all your characters are on like 1 HP from walking through lava, you're just gonna get killed. So the game expects you at this point, offhand, when you get the canoe, the game expects you to follow this spiraling loop of rivers to get to Mount Gold, and then after that you leave and get back to your boat and go riding off to do Cavern of Ice and get your airship and do everything to get to Sunken Shrine. But the boat has encounters, and the airship is fast, and so we just do Ice Cavern early, pick up the airship, do a whole bunch of extra stuff just to get some extra levels and extra damage output, the class change, and then we'll go back and do Mount Gold afterwards, and at that point it is ridiculously easy in comparison. Also, you'll notice Muttski here is just running back and forth to get the damage on the warrior and the thief. You won't get encounters on damage tiles like this, and that comes up pretty important. That turns out to be a pretty vital piece of information later on when Mount Gold comes up. Because I said earlier about being on 1 HP from walking through the lava, Mount Gold is a great place to watch, because the entire routing of it is how much lava can you go in. The more lava, the better. Mutt taking a fight here, which ends up not being that bad, because it does mean that the warrior and the thief die. So he's going to have a quicker start to the grind at the cost of an ambush and a judgment staff. And this is also one of the more worrying times in Ice Cavern, when your 2 melee characters are dead, you've got half the number of characters running away. We did see at least one race in this tournament already where someone did this level grind and then afterwards got ambushed and died and had to do it again. So Ice Cavern definitely has already caused some problems. Can and will cause more. I would put money on it at this point that Ice Cavern will kill someone else in this tournament. Little portal puzzle for Ray is ridiculously easy. Pretty much, if there are multiple options of teleporters, take the bottom one. And then the exception is the room that Ray's in now, where you just go directly to the right and then directly south. Also, Minotaur zombies. If it has zombie in its name in this dungeon, you can't run away from it. That's Citadel of Trials Unrunnables. And the fact that there are unrunnable encounters here, plus there's a forced encounter that you can run from, but it's good experience, so people generally don't. Between those, you'll almost always get the levels needed for the mages to get up to level 19. And that's why the grind only goes to level... Oh wow, one of the Minotaurs did not die. It's interesting to know, actually, the Judgment Staff here is... Generally, the Judgment Staff is a really safe way to kill a group of enemies. But here you've got melee weapons equipped to both of your mages, and that is an unrunnable encounter for Muttski there. Yeah, like I was saying with Ray, sorry, because your mages have their physical weapons, they can actually kill Minotaur zombies in one hit. So even with 3 enemies a lot of the time here, because you've got the lower magic from having the Lust Dagger, and because you've got your Lust Daggers equipped to attack, It's actually often better to just attack. But Ray did equip the Sage's Staff there, so we'll just be firing through any more Minotaur zombies that come this way. So in kind of, I think, the majority of races like this, it's worth noting the runners are allowed to know where each other are at. They are both allowed to know where the other person is. And so they'll know if they're ahead or behind. They'll be able to see splits or streams or whatever. They'll know how far ahead or behind they are. That doesn't have as much of an impact in FF1 as it might in other games. You know, it's not like you can go, oh, I'm going to take really risky strats because I'm losing and I need to make up this time. And we have seen that once, at least in the tournament. I lost to it, so, you know. For the most part, you're still going to do the same route. You're still going to do the same thing going through. The thing being, going through is fairly risk-free, but not entirely. There are sections that you can just get tripped up on. If you go through Mount Gorg and get an ambush, you don't save in Mount Gorg, because the odds of getting an encounter there are ridiculously low, let alone the odds of it being an ambush, and an ambush that can hit everyone. But if it happens, it's fatal. And high five through the desert. And again, Ray walks around the top while Muttski walks around the bottom just to avoid it. Every time. Every time I've said about them high-fiving, they've like avoided the path the other one has taken. Alright, so Ray's off to see Bahamut. Pretty much a Citadel of Trials between them, which... not the worst. Citadel of Trials is one of those dungeons that's kind of interesting, because you can have a really fast, really good Citadel of Trials, but in a way that doesn't work out well for you, because that means that you don't get the levels that you need for your mages necessarily. It's actually sometimes better to get an unrunnable or two in there, because that means that you don't have to grind levels towards the end. And we also do some stuff here. So again, in terms of like story progression, you're expected to go to Mount Gorg at this point. But we need to buy a ferry at some point. How people ever figured this out, I don't know. But you come here and you buy a ferry in a bottle, and we'll also buy some giant tonics. That's a safety net more than anything. And it's a pretty reliable, like a pretty necessary safety net most of the time. This is less of a safety net and more that if you're lucky, you don't need them, but you probably need them. And that's to do with the Thief and the Black Mage's HP. Those are the two that you want to keep an eye on. By the end of the game, you generally want the Thief to be over 300 and the Black Mage to be over 250. Those are kind of the benchmarks that people tend to use, although there really isn't a hard and fast rule to it. It depends on how fair Chaos is feeling on any given day. And the answer is usually not very. total chaos for a goddamn reason. Alright, so we pick up Oxy Ale. Can now breathe underwater. And finally, after all of that, make our way back to Mount Gulg and take care of Marilith. And revive a warrior eventually. And Ray is actually playing it safe. Okay, I commented on it earlier. I said about how I don't expect people to be taking especially safe strats, or like there aren't that many places you can play it safe, and Mount Gulg is probably the most threatening place coming up. Ray did take the safety save here. So like I say, all the movement here is basically designed to walk in as many lava tiles as possible and as few land tiles as possible. You will not get an encounter as long as you're walking in the lava. That's not an ambush, so Ray's going to be fine. Things I probably shouldn't say before Ray is actually fine. Oh god. Commentator's curse kicking in. What have I done? Nah. This should be, should be more than okay. Walking across a lot of land there, though. That is terrifying to see. And gets another encounter. That's unrunnable. I kind of wonder whether that pause was like a, oh god, what do I do? I'm going to die kind of thing, or if that was a double check to make sure this is actually unrunnable. The only elemental that you can run from is the air elemental, with a weird exception for the water elemental where you can run from it if it's with a water naga, but you can't run from it when it's on its own. Ray Judgment starts his way through that fight and gets to heal up, revive, get the full party back up to scratch, and gets away with that one. Interestingly though, that did buy Mutt a bit of time to catch up here as well. Couple of fights in Earth Cave, and one unrunnable and one that he struggled to run from. Means that if Mutt, in Mount Gulg, sorry, not Earth Cave. It means that if Mutt gets a decent Mount Gulg here, he'll have gained a decent chunk of time back. Marilith is not a threat as it goes. She will fall pretty quickly to pretty much anything. Basically, the worst you can ever have to do after Marilith is maybe I have to heal. And even that is a stretch. She's not quite as weak as Kraken, but it's close. Kraken by far the worst. By far the least threatening of the four fiends. And again, pretty much a dungeon between them. We had the same thing happen in yesterday's race. Although, it's worth noting that when Mutt took the crash in yesterday's race, that was before this point, so... Ray coming back for those spells now. That is kind of wild to me, but Makes sense, makes sense. You've got to pick them up somewhere, I guess, if you miss the levels early. This would be the place to do it. Ooh, Mutt taking a wrong turn there. Oh, and Mutt's actually going to play it safe and just have that extra character on 1 to run away from things now. I say play it safe when you've got a party of characters on 1 HP each, but it's about as safe as Mount Gold gets. Ray took a fascinating route to that I have never seen before, and it got there. And I made this comment about Ray yesterday with some of his movement. I'm like, I've not seen this kind of direction, but so many runners have so many different ways of getting through different areas, doing their airship movement, that kind of thing. And I mean, at the end of it all, the route that takes the fewest kind of backtracks is going to be the fastest. It doesn't matter which way you go. As long as you're not doubling back on yourself, it's all good. Alright, so Meredith down on Muttski's side and Sunken Shrine starting on Ray's side. So we've got basically a couple of shop menus for Muttski, and that's about it. Also, Sunken Shrine is generally not the worst dungeon. There's a lot to remember here. That's the big thing with this, is firstly, there are different options in terms of movement through Sunken Shrine. There's a lot of different floors, a lot of different things that you have to do on those floors. Then the unrunnable encounters. There are, I think, 3 unrunnable formation or unrunnable encounters in this area, and each one takes a different input. You have Thundara for Sahagin and Princes. We have Fyra for the Ghosts that we're seeing there on Ray's side. And then there's Blizzara for Water Elementals. So one of the biggest concerns here is not just how many unrunnable encounters you get, but also how many you get that require different inputs. Having to change your menu between is just that little bit slower. So the first thing Ray will do is come up to this room. The map actually wraps around on this screen, but you can't get to this room without wrapping around it, I don't think, so it doesn't matter too much. Pick up the Rosetta Stone. We'll need that one for the Fenians later on. Also, I commented on there being different options and different routes and things that people will change up their strategies for Sunken Shrine. Ray opting for the 2nd floor light axe, not the 4th floor light axe. Those are the 2 big options, and put simply, it's the same item that appears twice in this dungeon. You can get it in either of these places. I don't think there's much of a difference between the 2, honestly. In terms of movement, it's pretty much the same. The biggest difference is that if you pick up the 4th floor light axe, you can do the menuing after picking up the Rosetta Stone when you go to teleport. I'm glad to see the 2nd floor light axe though, because that one has more interesting things to talk about. So Ray is going to go over to pick up this light axe after this encounter, I guess. And it's worth noting that there are 3 squares around the treasure chest. 2 of them have forced encounters in them. You actually want to go specifically to the right side, avoiding the square below the chest, because that way you will not get a forced encounter there. Also, yeah, Ray is about bit over half a Sunken Shrine ahead, which... Sunken Shrine is one of the longer dungeons, so we're probably talking 1 to 2 minutes. Definitely not an insurmountable lead, but a notable one. And yeah, the light axe is used here for survival vests. The third big agility boost armor that we pick up. Go from Thieves' Armlets, which are +5, to Black Garbs, which are +10, to survival vests that I think are +15. So... just increase that agility, make sure we can keep running away from fights. Also, I made a comment earlier about unrunnable encounters and just wanting the same inputs for all of them. And saw Muttski get Water Elementals for Blizzara and Ghosts for Fire. Ray has had a Sahuagin encounter, but I don't think has had a Water Elemental encounter. I've got to say, one of my favourite things about doing commentary for both of the races between these two has been the amount of support for both of these runners. It is fantastic to see people showing up and throwing their support behind both of them. Also, on that note, after Muttski yesterday, for anyone who missed it, had an equipment glitch go wrong, equipped something on a shield, and ended up basically had the choice of go back about 20 minutes to your previous save or forfeit, and just took the forfeit then and there, and then came in to show support as well, which is great. So Kraken is less threatening than half of the random encounters in this game. Oh, Muttski walking onto the bottom square there. I noted earlier with that treasure chest, you have to avoid the 2 squares touching the chest from the bottom or the left, because they will give you a forced encounter. Did get away from it quickly enough, so it's not a huge concern. It's just an extra unnecessary fight. Muttski very quickly going to remove that survival vest from that shield. Like I said yesterday, so there was an error in the equips on Muttski's side that caused the game to lock. The error basically being only certain equipment are allowed on shields. The game has blocking animations associated with different equips. So if you have a shield, there will be an animation to block when you get attacked, and the shield is what makes a difference. And Muttski yesterday had Black Garbs on shield, and that doesn't have an animation for blocking. And if that happens, the game doesn't quite know what to do and just locks up and crashes the whole thing. So Muttski being very cautious to change those equips, make sure they are completely accurate down to the letter. Also, not bad waterfall cave there for Ray. Not too many encounters. Does have to get this robot to move out the way. It's worth noting, by the way, for anyone following along with this tournament, so we have 5 groups of 5. This is in Group A, Tsunami. They're all named after Chaos's attacks. Double Drop picked up 2 wins over Ray, who, if things continue the way they are right now, is on course for a 2nd win over Muttski. And in just a couple of hours, we actually have the 2 races between Cruel and Who42 Baker, who are the last 2 runners in that group. So by the end of today, we should have a really good idea of kind of where people stand moving forwards. Muttski just tearing through Kraken. Like I say, Kraken, never a threat. Like, it's interesting when we fight the 4 Fiends throughout the game and then you refight them in the Chaos Shrine later. They basically match up pretty neatly. Lich can open up with a move that will just kill you. Tiamat will kill you if you give her too much time and freedom to do things. Marilith, you might have to heal afterwards, but that's about it. She'll never kill you. And Kraken is a joke. Kraken you can just ignore and he'll just do nothing. Alright, so we go off. Ray is going to go talk to Dr. Un. I don't know how you're meant to pronounce it. Doesn't have the spelling changes between versions. So he's going to jump on the spot and you're going to wave your hand and nod a bit. And that means that you can now speak a new language, apparently. Of course. So the gap between these 2 runners earlier was pretty notable. And Mutt has definitely closed that gap. The distance between them not quite as great now. But if you're in Mutt's seat, you're running out of time to get that, to close that distance now. You're hoping for, at this point you're hoping for some unfortunate luck on Ray's side or some god luck on your own. And this is one of the places that can have really variant luck for Ray here. 2 fights, no unrunnables so far. Three fights, no unrunnables, wow. So I've seen everything on this journey to and from Lufenia. I have seen everything from 1 to 8 unrunnable encounters. It's one of those stretches of the game that can really cause problems. You have no choice. There's nowhere else you can park your airship. You have to do this massive trek between the 2. Oh no, Mutt taking an ambush here. Just before the ribbon from enemies that... Yeah, you kind of want your ribbon for this. Looking like he should be okay here, though. Yeah, perfect. So I'm pretty sure that's 5 encounters on Ray's side, maybe 6. There's the first unrunnable. Cool. So Mutt going to equip ribbons to a few characters. Ribbons, I mentioned earlier about the equipment glitch and the shield animations and all of that stuff. There are a few that we use during this run. Lordly robes have an animation associated with them. Ribbons also have an animation associated with them. And there's no discernible reason for that. Like, the animations make zero sense as blocking animations either. That's the best part of that. The Lordly robes looks like a robe. The ribbons is like a sword attack, like more of a parry than a block. But either way, they work, and that's the important part. They will not lock the game up. Oof, but narrowly avoiding being blocked by the blue-haired NPC there. Hellhounds in this tower are absolutely fine. Hellhounds can be really annoying elsewhere because you don't know if you can run away from them. But here they're fine, and on that note, this fight is now pretty much trivial on Ray's side because there are ribbons equipped. So status nowhere near as much of a threat as it used to be. By which I mean there's maybe one enemy that is actually threatening with it. Alright, punching through the blue dragon. That's a forced encounter there. Not an especially threatening one. I don't think any of the forced encounters are especially threatening, but especially at this stage, all of them are pretty much just one hit, they die. Ooh, Muttski getting a first unrunnable already, and it's a slow one. I was going to say, going for Blizzara there, they are weak to fire. Oh, there we go. That is honestly, like, for anyone wanting to learn this game, that is probably the first big thing that will trip people up. And I know that, personally, I still make mistakes on it, is remembering exactly which encounters are unrunnable and exactly which moves you need to beat them. It's very easy in Chaos Shrine in particular, where there are so many different encounters that are unrunnable, and somewhere along the way you are going to get one of them wrong, and Muttski getting held up for a bit there. Human-shaped obstacles getting in the path. I mentioned brooms and bats earlier, but I didn't talk about the Fenians doing it as well. They do it as well. When we're Ray in the room that like wraps round, it's another looping room, but it doesn't matter which direction you go, you just need to go 2 horizontally and 2 vertically. Come on, Warmech. So I've not caught every race so far in this tournament. Someone correct me if I'm wrong here, if they know that I'm wrong on this one. I'm pretty sure we've not seen a Warmech yet. And it's a 1 in 64 encounter, and we have had some... There have been... like, I think we've seen pretty much every other 1 in 64. Like maybe bar 1. But no sign of Warmech yet. As it goes, though, I actually think today this race, on both sides, has not seen a rare encounter. Which is kind of crazy. I know they're, again, you know, they're rare for a reason, 1 in 64 and all of that, but... Okay, so Ray's Tiamat fight, I didn't actually track when I would normally Like, people normally split as the enemy starts dying, but the fanfare started at 119.55. So we can use that to... We'll see how far behind Muttski is going out of Tiamat. And Chaos Shrine, honestly, can make a world of difference. It is by far the most tense part of the run, I want to say. Not because it's necessarily the most, like, high risk of dying, but because it's so late in the run and it's so costly when something goes wrong there that you're, like, terrified if it does. Alright, Ray makes his way over to Chaos Shrine. It's a really solid time for entering here as well. I know Ray was saying his goal here was just to keep hammering down his PB. He's already broken it twice in this tournament. And I think his current is a 135. 135.05. That was his current PB. So if he can do Chaos Shrine in the next 13 minutes, that is a third PB in 4 races for Ray. Purple Worm's one of the most kind of, I want to say, common unrunnables here. I don't know if they actually are more common. They certainly feel that way. Just attack them. There's nothing else can be done. There are a lot of unrunnable formations in Chaos Shrine, so remembering each and every one is definitely one of the biggest challenges of this place. Green dragons are... If there's only 1 or 2 enemies, you can generally get away with attacking things. But, yeah, that is another unrunnable. They've all had the same menu so far, though, which is a big saving grace here, because you can just hold X in between. You can just... Oh, jeez. Oh, no. Oh, no, Muttski. Oh, gods. So I said about status not being much of a threat once you've got ribbons. Mind Flayers are the exception. Mind Blast can crit, and if it does, it paralyzes through a ribbon. Oh no. Oh no. This is terrifying to watch. Obviously, the most notable thing about this is even getting out of this now will be slow. But, jeez. At this point, I think getting out of it is... You take that. You take getting out of this alive. Okay, Jesus. Yeah, pretty much every dungeon has an enemy that can cause problems in an ambush. Some more so than others. Flying Fortress, generally one of the safer ones, but or at least until the 5th floor. But that is... God, that is... Yeah, that is definitely like the extreme end of luck in this place. Ray, meanwhile, getting nothing but unrunnables and terrifying fights. Did take a safety save, so it's not the most costly thing ever if he does die to one of them, but it's probably the difference between, you know, potential PB and not at this point. And will he take the safety save? No, okay. No safety save, yeah. I figured if he was going to the menu early, he might safety save there. Probably going to take it before Lich anyway. Lich is just as hazardous in this form as he was the first time round. Can definitely just wipe a party, no questions asked, with Flare out of the gate. Nope, instead it was a 0 damage attack, and that is going to be a really smooth Lich fight for Ray there. So Ray has 8.5 minutes left to his PB. And 8.5 minutes is... It's going to be cutting it tight, but it is definitely manageable at this point. Every unrunnable encounter now is going to feel like it takes an age in Ray's mind, though. It's one of those moments where you close in on the end of a run, you start to feel every time lost that little bit more, that little bit of an extra kick to each one. Marrowless down, didn't Faraga, so don't even have to heal up after this. Ray can just carrying on. And Muttski joining in Chaos right now. So obviously took a major setback in the floating fortress there, but we have seen races that were kind of, you know, this far apart be closed up pretty quickly. All it takes is a death at Chaos and everything's leveled up again. Be interesting to see if Muttski takes any risks here. Goes for the average time or goes for the win. I've definitely seen people play to win more than anything, who have skipped over the safety saves or kind of not healed when they probably should have. Be interesting to see if we get any of that kind of oh no, White Dragon ambush. This is one of the worst ambushes you can get, just because they are still threatening. This was an enemy from Ice Cavern, and if you fight them there, you pretty much just die on the spot. But even here, they can still be a threatening enemy because of exactly that. But even more annoying than that is a good White Dragon fight is still really slow. It is still ridiculously slow. They will still sit there and spam Ice Storm at you, and the best you can ask for is just in a White Dragon ambush, it's just as many attacks as possible. Meanwhile, Tiamat on Ray's side. Tiamat can do damage, but usually not enough to care, and in this case, definitely not enough to care. So Ray has 5 minutes to do menuing and then chaos in order for him to get a PB. And I touch on that mostly because Ray has come into this saying his aim is just to keep grinding down his PB during this tournament. He's already beaten it twice in this tournament alone. And he's done 3 races so far. So if he gets it again here, that is a spectacular rate. Like, that is a super consistent rate of improvement there. So, the Chaos fight coming up. I didn't get a decent look at the HP totals there, but we'll check those when we go in. The thing that you want to look for are 300 HP on the Ninja. If you don't have that, Giant's Tonic there. 250 HP on the Black Mage. If you don't have that, Giant's Tonic there. Haste. We didn't get Haste on the Ninja for Ray, so that is an unrunnable encounter for Mutt there, unfortunately. But yeah, using a Giant's Tonic on the Ninja, right? Oh, and they probably both need it. So yeah, they will both use Giant's Tonics instead of attacking on turn 1. We heal every turn with the White Mage and set up hastes with Black Mage. You would do that with the Ninja as well if they had it, but this is kind of the worst case scenario Chaos fight in terms of menuing and like how much you have to do. How close is this? It was a lot closer going into Chaos Shrine, I've got to say that much. Muttski was probably about a minute behind going into during the Floating Fortress, but has had some pretty miserable luck throughout the end of Floating Fortress and Chaos Shrine that has just, I think, made that gap pretty much insurmountable at this point. But I guess Ray could take a late death at Chaos or a Kuraga or something that could still turn the tables. Mutt not having much fun with White Dragons, though. White Dragons are such a pain in this. Absolutely brutal enemy. Really are. He's going to go for the Judgment Staff kill on them instead. I hope that one does it. I'm actually not sure if that'll get there. Oh no, Mutt. Oh no. Jesus, that is unbelievable. I do not know if there was a safety save or there is Ray coming in with the finish. That is a new PB for Ray. That is... wow. Jeez. I'm gonna guess there was no safety save and no finish coming out there. That was... the RNG towards the end. White Dragons are the worst. White Dragons are absolutely brutal at times, and I mean this shows why. They are a fast enemy with safety save for 40, Matt. It's not the worst. It's obviously a setback, a big setback, but better that than like Ice Cave or Mount Gold or whatever. Let me see if we have a way of getting Ray in for an interview, potentially. Yeah, white dragons are definitely one of the most terrifying enemies in this game. Like, the fact that they can appear in Ice Cavern is hideous. Just absolutely hideous. We'll be finishing up here. Still important, still good to do. Average time is a huge factor. And obviously the run yesterday will kind of put a damper on that a little bit, but still grind it out where you can, get that average time, and hope that a few good runs in the rest of the tournament can pull that back. It's kind of the nature of the beast with this game in a way. It's one again. We said it before, and we said it. We'll say it 1,000 times. Total chaos is not just the name of the tournament, it's also what you sign yourself up for running this game. It is hugely dependent on movement and menuing, and there's some really key kind of optimizations there. There's also a lot of RNG, and when the RNG goes against you, it is brutal. It is absolutely brutal. Yeah, this is a glitch version. The PSP version is by far the fastest because of there's an equipment glitch that they'll be using, so have used. That's pretty much it. There's not much else available, but that equipment glitch does save a lot of time by giving some very powerful equipment way earlier than they really should have access to it. Very powerful equipment way earlier than they really should have access to it. Do that. That makes more sense. Alrighty. Dragon zombies, not the worst. Dealt with those more than enough times. Like I say, the biggest thing with Chaos Shrine is just remembering which encounters are unrunnable and which moves you're meant to use on each, because there are so many of them in this dungeon that like those, that remembering each individual one is the bigger problem. It's not a question of, oh, I hope I don't get unrunnable fights, because you're just going to, like Earth Cave 3rd floor, you're hoping you don't find Pisca Demons. By this point, you're just like, whatever, I'm going to get unrunnable fights. Hopefully they're ones I can get through quickly or efficiently. I'm hoping I don't get ambushed. In Muttski's case, I'd imagine at this point you absolutely do not want to see white dragons. Oh my god. Oh, it was fine. Oh, it was fine. Oh my god. I can imagine these are really tense moments every time Muttski finds a white dragon here. Is just like tensing up, not wanting anything to go wrong again. But got away from those ones just fine, and won't be finding white dragons here. They do not appear on the Lich floor. These are basically a floor per 4 Fiend. And yeah, white dragons, thankfully not one of those. So just a quick look at the HP totals while on that menu. Cutting it a bit close at the moment. Like, the Thief right now definitely needs a Giant Tonic, and the Black Mage probably does to be safe. But there is still probably a couple of unrunnable encounters coming up. Not to mention the 4 Fiend fights, although they don't offer that much. So there's every chance that that HP just creeps over the line to be out of a Giant Sonic range. Whether or not Muttski will take that risk is a different question at this point. Ugh. I mentioned it earlier on Ray's side. Marilith, the worst she can do is make you heal up afterwards. Generally not much of a threat, but of course, we immediately see exactly why she can force a heal at least. Fragger's about the only thing that she really does that's ever a problem, but said about getting a couple of unrunnables. We'll see if there's any more for that extra level for the Black Mage in particular. Right now it's looking like you'd probably just go with the 2 Giants Tonics, but there is definitely room to take a risk on the Black Mage. And wow, Kraken coming out forcing the heal as well. Like, that doesn't happen often. Kraken normally throws some ink around or like pokes you with a tentacle and you don't care. And Thundara is pretty much the only thing that can ever happen that requires a heal, and it's not exactly common. Tiamat just does a lot of damage. There's not much to worry about with her. She's just like little bits of damage, tries to throw some status at you. You don't care because you've got a ribbon. Move on. Shrug it all off. So Ray, throwing down that link in the chat, yes, absolutely go and follow both of these runners. They have put on some amazing races between today and yesterday, despite some RNG, to say the least. These have been fantastic races to watch. Fantastic races. I'm really glad that I got to commentate these because they have been really interesting in really kind of different ways. And we've definitely seen everything this game has to offer, from what happens when the equipment glitch goes wrong, to what happens when the RNG goes wrong, to some really clean menuing and movement, and just, yeah, it has been... This has been each extreme of this game, pretty much. So Muttski did skip on the Giant's Tonic on the Black Mage there. It's definitely a close one. Kind of 250 is the benchmark that people tend to use, but obviously 252 is cutting it close. Definitely cutting it close. And a bad string of attacks or a couple of high rolls from Chaos could prove fatal there. So far, at least, though, being relatively friendly. Oh boy, here we go. Tsunami and Cyclone, those are the two attacks that you're actually worried about moving forwards. And it's not just a question of how much damage they do individually, it's also the fact that you don't heal that much. So now... Never mind, there's the finish. Nothing to worry about. Yeah, congrats to both runners here. This was honestly, like, this was a great race to watch and commentate. And for a moment, it was really coming back. It was like maybe a minute apart at Tiamat, and it looked like it was going to go right down to the wire, and then White Dragons. White Dragons are a nightmare no matter when you see them, where you see them, whatever happens. It's kind of one of the things of this game is it will pick you up just to drop you at the last second sometimes, and fantastic race outside of that. Congrats to both runners, and congrats to Ray on yet another new PB. That's what, another minute and a half off of a PB after 2 PBs so far this tournament, if I'm not mistaken. And congrats to Muttski for finishing out that run after all of that. Like, I know quite a few people, myself included, would be very tempted to just call it there. You've seen your opponent finishing and taken a death that put you back to Tiamat. Finishing strong, definitely. So later today, we actually have, in an hour, in an hour's time, we have back-to-back races from Cruel and Who 42 Baker, which that's the rest of this group. The last two people to face off in Tsunami, so get a pretty good idea of where this group stands by that point. And those should both be on this channel, so
I finally found the invite.
Hey. Congrats.
Thank you.
That was, am I right in saying that that's your third PB in 4 races in this tournament?
Picking me up twice. Am I echoing?
No, it's all fine on this side. Have you still got the stream open in the background?
Oh, that's what it is. There we go. Now I fixed it.
But yeah, am I right in saying that that's your third PB in this tournament in 4 races?
It is. I've just had really good luck, and I've been practicing a lot on the glitch, trying to do what little I can to influence the run.
It's clearly doing something right, because that's another minute and a half off of the last one.
I think it is. So I'm just ecstatic. I'm doing way better time-wise than I expected to.
It was definitely a fairly I don't want to say it was like an especially good run in terms of RNG, but it didn't seem like an especially bad one either. It was kind of like middle of the road, what you'd expect, I think.
Right. I mean, I didn't have like a ton of encounters for the most of the run, but some of the encounters I did have were just absolutely atrocious. Like at the very beginning, when it seemed like every encounter was a wolf encounter.
Mm-hmm. And obviously, Astos played a big part in things.
Well, that was one of the kind of making things up as I went. I knew that the Black Mage was going to be super underleveled, so I couldn't pick up spells. So I just decided to roll with Judgment Staff until the level grind.
Yeah, I mean, it works out apparently. Yeah, it's interesting because I was watching that and I was like, I have no idea how he is going to fix this, or like what the plan is from here. But you did a pretty good job of making up for it, and I feel like I know what I'm going to do if it happens to me now.
Like I said, I was just making it up on the fly. It was just going to, from what I could tell, I would have to grind way too many ogre encounters to make it up. I figured that Evil Eye gives way more experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you were what, level 5 coming out of Astos, I think?
I was. Astos is one of the biggest XP givers we do in the beginning of the run, so I knew I was going to be host for the Black Mage Less Dagger route until much later in the run.
Mm-hmm. It was interesting because Muttski had to redo a menu before that. So it was like a bit behind already by that stage, but did get the warrior death there. And like the whole race, it was, a couple of minutes between you. And then it was like, and it's a bit shorter and it's a bit shorter. And the gap's like closing inch by inch as the race goes on up until Chaos Shrine.
The RNG eased up. Well, the RNG started kind of like getting down on me around Sunken Shrine because as I was looking at my splits, that's where I started hemorrhaging time almost every split.
Yeah, Sunken Shrine. I touched on it during the commentary, but I'll say again here. Like, I feel like the big thing with Sunken Shrine is less about the number of unrunnables you get and more about the menuing between them. And every single fight for you seemed to be a different move, a different like thing to kill them.
I mean, overall, that was kind of frustrating, but at the same time, it was just I don't know. I'm still processing because it just things went really well for the most part the entire run.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the Astos thing was a hiccup, and luckily I didn't get tilted and start making too many dumb mistakes.
No, absolutely. Like I say, your recovery seems like from where I was sat, it looked like someone who knew how to recover, and I had a plan ready and waiting. So,
well, and a lot of what's helped me prepare for this tournament is just watching Forsyth grinding PBs on this game. I mean, he's very engaging in his chat, and so I could ask him questions and kind of watch how he was doing things and menuing. So a lot of the little tips and tricks and things that I use now are just from having watched Forsyth for the past year running this game over and over.
I can't think of many better places to learn. Yeah, that's so. Obviously, towards the end, your Chaos Shrine was not the worst. Like there were definitely some, again, small blips in there, like just in terms of unrunnables more than anything. But yeah, obviously,
oh, sorry.
No, all I was going to say was, like I say, yeah, you and Muttski, it was the gap between you was closing bit by bit by bit, and it was probably about a minute at the start of the floating fortress, and then Muttski got a Mind Flayer full paralysis ambush, and suddenly was back to 2-3 minutes behind, and then got White Dragon ambush into White Dragon ambush into White Dragon ambush, and finally died to them. And the save was before Tiamat, so
oof.
Suddenly that, like really early on, it was like maybe 2 minutes between you, and it like inch down to about maybe a minute 45 seconds, and then suddenly it was all gone again.
I think the scariest part for me was when that fire elemental popped up in Mount Gold on B5. My brain froze and I didn't know what to do.
You hesitated for a second there, and I was like, part of me, I was like, I'm going to assume it's more, how do I get out of this alive? But I was like, there's a chance that it's, can I run from this?
I was trying to remember. So I knew in my notes it said Blazaria was the spell to use, but I didn't have Blazaria yet because I was unable to buy it earlier.
Right, of course.
So eventually I'm like, oh wait, I've got Judgment Staffs. I should probably use that.
Got through it. I feel like all the best runs that I've seen in this tournament so far have had those really clutch moments where you're like, I don't know if this person gets out of this alive, and then they just scrape through. And that was definitely one of those for you today.
Well, my thief will forever be named Wedge, because from what I heard, yesterday he was termed Wedgendary because he somehow scraped by every single time he should have died.
The survival on Lich yesterday was, I think that was the crowning moment. Oh, jeez.
But overall, I've just been super happy with the tournament. I've had a lot of good races that have really pushed me and forced me to really take practicing ahead of time, so that way I'm ready and mentally focused to do the race. Like this tournament just feels like I'm so much more prepared and ready to play than I was last year.
That's fair, yeah. And honestly, I feel like that's a really important thing as well, is especially with a game like this where, we all talk about how much the RNG plays into this run. Mental state is actually a really big deal. Like, it's really easy to get tilted when things start to go wrong and start to kind of panic a little more. And yeah, not having that come up or not come up as much is a really important thing. Muttski says you're welcome for coining the legendary term.
I haven't looked at the restream yet. I didn't know who coined it.
Yeah, that was your opponent at the time.
I mean, other than everything I've mentioned before, like I mentioned in previous races, this is such an easy run to get into and start learning. My brother, after having watched me do this a couple times, completed his first full speed run of it with me kind of sitting back, just occasionally coaching him to make sure he didn't get lost. And he got a sub 2 hour on his second real attempt at the game. So it's a really approachable game. If any of you that have watched it really have enjoyed what you saw and would like to jump in, please jump into the Discord. I think I spammed the link in there. We're more than willing to accept new runners, and we just would love to see this tournament continue to grow each year.
For sure, definitely, yeah. Yeah, for anyone who wants that command, it's !FF1 PSP, I think. And if you haven't quite got your fix on it, the next race is in just under an hour. And that's going to be a fun one. So I'm interested to hear your thoughts on these two races coming up. Going to have back-to-back races. Cruel versus Who42 Baker. So it's the last two people from your group.
Well, I'll definitely be watching because I haven't seen Who42 Baker play yet. So I'd like to scope out the competition, and also I'm interested to see how Cruel plays because I actually play him tomorrow morning, same bat time as the past 2 mornings. So I'm interested to see where he's at in his mental state, how his execution of the game is.
That's fair, yeah, and the barbarian sword.
Yeah, he may be the only person that still runs pretty much what's considered the OG strat for PSP any percent.
Yeah, definitely going to be interesting. It will shape up the group quite nicely as well, because you're 2-2 now. 2 losses to Double Drop, 2 wins over Muttski right now. Those 2 matches, plus you're saying about your match tomorrow. After that, like, the group's lining up really nicely. You're going to have a pretty good idea of exactly not just who you need to beat, but also the sort of times you're aiming for to kind of scrape in on those averages if needed.
I just know that the run I had today is what I'm definitely going to want against Cruel, because he just his luck, like last year, his luck was just amazing. It was ungodly.
I hope he spends it all today so that you don't have to put up with it tomorrow.
I definitely have my fingers crossed.
Jeez. Right. Fantastic. Anything else, Rod?
Nope. Just thank everybody who came and watched. Thank you, Speed Gaming, for hosting our tournament. And also a swift thank you to my brother Tav Tendo, who's letting me crash at his place. We're supposedly visiting family, but he and his wife are helping to watch my kids, so that way I can take time out to participate in this tournament. So I'm really grateful for that.
The real heroes.
I want to make sure they're not the unsung heroes.
Oh, wow. Fantastic. Alrighty then. So, yeah, for anyone who's interested, an hour, like I say, 50 minutes from now, should be on here. We have back-to-back races of Cruel and Who42 Baker for this group as well, so definitely stick around for that one. It's going to be a really fascinating race to watch because it will be a kind of I know who 42 Baker has described himself as the up and coming or the bad player in the group, to use their terms. I'm going to say up and coming. Whereas Cruel is kind of the old hat, the old guard at this point, I think. So it's going to be kind of each extreme. Should be a great one to watch. Thank you so much, everyone, for hanging out. It's been a fantastic race to watch. And yeah, just to echo what Ray said about if you're interested in this, exclamation mark FF1 PSP in the chat. We'll link to the Discord for all of us. And the community is amazingly supportive, really easy to jump into, and it's a great run to learn. So cheers for hanging out all, and we'll hopefully see everyone soon.